Man, I swear every time I do a holiday video, it's at the absolute last moment. I think this one is well worth my procrastination. I've done most of these recipes before, but I have upgraded all of them in some way for this most holy of holidays. Bodhi Day. I mean, Thanksgiving. Let's be honest, turkey usually sucks. Dry, bland, you know the drill. But with the power of Jimmy breakfast sausage, all things are possible. Hold up, let me slap some gloves on. There we go. For this recipe, you're going to need a ½ pound of this breakfast sausage. Place this greasy meat onto a piece of plastic wrap and then top that with another sheet. All we need to do here is get this pressed out as thinly as possible, or about a 1/4 inch for the nerds out there. Feel free to use your hands or pull out that rolling pin that's been lonely in your drawer for months now. Just aim to make a huge and thin sausage patty. Place this in the fridge while we take care of our turkey. Go ahead and place down another precursory piece of plastic wrap. Then lay your turkey breast tenderloins on top of that. You can do this with normal turkey breast as well, but it will be a bit more work than this. Simply butterfly your tenderloin to give it a head start before we start smashing it. Carefully make slices down the middle until it folds out nicely like this. Repeat that and put a nice plastic blanket on top. Grab a mallet and use its weight to begin to pound your turkey breast into about a ½ inch in thickness. Man, I really hope that Deadpool is at the Macy's Thanksgiving parade this year. It'll be a real bummer if he isn't. Place that into a fridge and pull out 8 ounces of cremini mushrooms. We're going to be making a duxelle with these bad boys. I threw all of these into a food processor to look like this. If you don't want to dirty up a blender or processor, chopping it fine with a knife is also acceptable. Place all of these into a pan that's set over medium-high heat, as well as a big pinch of salt. Mushrooms hold a lot of water in them, and the combination of the salt and the heat will help us draw a lot of that out. While we're here, go ahead and add a 1/4 teaspoon each of dried thyme and rosemary. After a few minutes, you should see a rolling boil of mushroom water. You can reserve that for your favorite Thanksgiving cocktails, but I'm just going to evaporate as much as possible. Set this aside, and we can begin to assemble our turkey. What you're looking at now will be the inside of the rolled turkey. Season this up with whatever you want, but today I'm going to be using smokestack, aka my favorite poultry seasoning. Once that's seasoned, spread your mushrooms as evenly as possible. Whoops, I forgot about the seam. Make sure that your turkey has a slight overlap to prevent spillage of mushrooms. Now, I'll redistribute these mushrooms. Next, we can cover all of this with our breakfast sausage meat blanket. If there are holes while you're removing the plastic wrap, simply take pieces off the edges to patch any wonky spots. To roll this, tuck in the sides like you would a burrito. Lift your plastic wrap and begin to roll. Go ahead and season the outside of this as well, and then lay it onto another sheet of plastic. Wrap this tightly by grabbing the excess plastic on the outside and rolling it on the board. You should be left with a nice log of meaty goodness. Place this into your fridge for at least 2 hours, but preferably overnight to let all those flavors have a little party. After that little shindig, remove the turkey log from the plastic. Place this onto a wire rack that's in a high wall pan. If anything is looking a little loosey-goosey, tighten it right up. Place this into an oven at 375 degrees for 45 to 55 minutes or until you register 160 degrees Fahrenheit internal. Slice into thick pieces and serve. For the deviled eggs, I'm going to be using 6 pre-boiled eggs for time's sake. I have a video on how to boil eggs if you need it, and it'll be linked below. The first step is simple and tedious at the same time. Get the yolks out of the egg whites. I usually recommend to boil your eggs the day before Thanksgiving because who the hell wants to be boiling eggs the day of Thanksgiving? That's right, serial killers. Place all of your yolks into the bowl and set aside. Find yourself a plate to place the egg white halves on. If you find that your eggs are sliding all over the place, you can stop that by placing a piece of plastic wrap on the plate. For the deviled egg filling, I enjoy using sour cream more than mayo. It's a lot lighter in texture and more enjoyable in my opinion. You'll need at least 1/4 cup of sour cream and up to 1/3 cup depending on the texture you want. To this, add about 2 tablespoons of dill relish, and then season it up with a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a pinch of black pepper. Mix all of this together with a fork until smooth. Give it a taste for seasoning. I decided to add a bit more relish to mine, but you don't have to. I just needed that nostalgic kick. Lucky for you, I forgot to record. I didn't want to bore you anyways with me spooning in egg yolk mixture into the egg white holes, but I did save one just for you. We usually only top these with paprika in my house, but I wanted a little extra flavor, so of course I added smokestack. Sprinkle a little on top and let these rest in the fridge while we make everything else. This pumpkin spice custard is another one that you can make ahead of time to be extra delicious. The recipe is super simple. 1 cup of milk, a ½ cup of heavy cream, 2 whole eggs, 2 egg yolks, a pinch of salt, the star of the show, pumpkin spice. You'll need about 2 teaspoons of this, about 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and finally some sort of sweetener. I'm using 4 tablespoons of Swerve powdered sweetener. Whisk this together until homogeneous and set aside. Now we need to make a bain marie, which is quite simple. Get a baking dish and line it with a few paper towels. Place your oven-safe ramekins on top of the paper. Then pour in enough simmering or very hot water until it's a third way up the side of the ramekins. Finish that up by filling your dishes with the custard. Carefully place that into an oven set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 35 to 40 minutes or until the custard is firm. Dressing, or stuffing as the rest of the country calls it, usually starts with cornbread. Luckily, I have the perfect cornbread alternative. Start by placing a pound of cooked ground chicken or turkey into a blender or food processor. And that's about 1 pound raw and 14 ounces cooked. Next, we need to add 6 ounces by weight of pork rinds. I like to split this part up to help the blender out. You'll need 6 eggs all day, but just add half for now. That's 3 for those of you that can't do math. No judgment, just trying to be helpful. Top the eggs with 2 teaspoons of baking powder, then stuff the rest of your pork rinds and eggs as well as you can. I mean, you could blend what's already in there, but we wouldn't want to do something too big-brained like that. Simply blend and scrape until your eyes go out of focus and you're not sure what you're looking at. Next up, let's get a small cast iron pan set over medium-high heat. You can use any fat you want for this part, but I went with butter and olive oil. This was all I had at my disposal. Just make sure to add about a quarter cup in total. It doesn't have to be scorching hot by any means, so we can go ahead and start adding in our cornbread mix. Once it's all in there, smooth it out and wait for the sign. These bubbles are your sign that it's ready to place into an oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for right at 40 minutes. While that's cooking away, we'll need
the Trinity.
That's finely diced celery, bell pepper, and onion. It's half of what's going to make this dressing Cajun. While I was messing around with the poor attempts at fun editing, the cornbread was finally finished. It's such a dapper looking cornbread indeed. Let this sit at room temp for about 20 minutes just so we can handle it. Get that loaf out of the pan and into a bowl. I thought I'd be smart and break up the cornbread with a potato masher, but don't make the same mistake as me. Break the cornbread up into smaller pieces beforehand. We can go ahead and add
the Trinity.
And 2 cups of our chicken stock just to get it started mashing. The other half of the Cajun part is to use some sort of Cajun or Creole seasoning. I added about 1 teaspoon to start. I could already tell it was looking a little dry, so I added an additional cup of chicken stock. After mashing for a while, I tasted it and determined that it could use some more herbaceousness. I use poultry seasoning, which is simply a mix of herbs with a touch of salt. I found one that looks like this for $1 and it's pretty damn good. Add about 1 teaspoon of this. Continue mashing and tasting until you're satisfied with the flavor. The written recipe below will be exactly what I made. I place this back into my small cast iron pan and smooth it all out. It should be slightly jiggly and not soupy at all. Top this with a touch more of Creole and poultry seasoning before placing it into your oven set to 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. For this final recipe, we'll be making my classic carnivore mac and cheese, but making it taste even better. We will start with the noodles, which is simply 1 pound of ground chicken, 2 eggs, and a half teaspoon of salt. The best way to mix all of this is in a bowl with a fork. Next up, we want to get this into a piping bag, aka Ziploc bag, because we're not trying to be fancy cake makers here. Place a pan of water over medium heat and bring to a simmer. This is my favorite part of the recipe because it feels nearly authentic to making pasta. Cut the corner of your bag and gently squeeze small portions of your chicken dough and cut it. I meticulously counted mine and I could fit 102 pieces of this chicken dough into my water. I'll be doing 2 batches. Let these chicken balls boil for about 5 minutes before removing with a spider and letting drain onto some paper towels. Once you have boiled all of your balls, we want them to dry out even more by placing them onto a parchment-like baking sheet and putting them into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 18 minutes or until they look like this. Set these aside, and I forgot to press record for the second time in this video. This cheese sauce is very simple. Place a pan over medium heat along with 1 cup of heavy cream and 6 slices of trash cheese. Stir continuously until steam starts to appear and your cheese has melted completely. Turn the heat off and very slowly whisk in 4 ounces by weight of sharp cheddar cheese. Once that's incorporated, you can add your chicken balls and follow that up by adding 1 whisked egg. Pour this into a baking dish and top with just a little more of that cheddar. Place this into your oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes or until your cheese is lightly browned. And now's the time we've been waiting for, the basking in all of this holiday food goodness. Obviously, you don't have to make all of this, but you can have a good low-inflammatory meal of custard, dressing, mac and cheese, turkey, and deviled eggs. The only thing missing is your sturdy paper plate. I know everyone is different, but here's my perfect Thanksgiving plate. A little bit of turkey, a hefty amount of dressing, just a touch of mac and cheese because it's so rich, and finish that up with 2 deviled eggs. Now that reminds me of the holidays. It's time to give this a taste and revel in the nostalgia. The dressing is crumbly, smooth, and crisp all at the same time. The deviled eggs are nice and tangy, the way I like them. The mac and cheese is so rich and delicious. And the turkey, super flavorful and so moist. Everything on this plate is amazing, but we can't forget about dessert. Yes, this custard is so damn good. I had it cold the next day and it was on its way to having a pumpkin pie texture, but still insanely smooth. This was delightful to make and eat. I hope these recipes help you out so that you can, at the very least, enjoy your holiday without fear of feeling like a heaping pile of trash at the end of the day. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all.